I do support their right to resist.
Looting, raping, killing, kidnapping, destroying, suicide bombing is not an act of resistance. It is barbaric. It is barbaric.
So you can call me TikTok watcher, you can call me Gen Z, you can call me arrogant. What you can't do is respond to the facts.
What facts?
Well, you know,
what facts?
To be fair, we need facts, and that's what I was kind of asking you about. So,
well.
The fact that I was born there and you weren't? The fact that you have a second-hand knowledge?
No, the fact that Israel...
The fact that you think saving human life is treason?
Palestine was never born. How can you free it? She's been there only for a visit, and maybe she had some falafel sandwich, you know, and she really was blown away of the Palestinian experience. There is no such a thing as Palestine. It's about time to retire, find a different job. You're not a journalist. You don't qualify even to be a mother.
Wow.
Well, you know, this is Abi's desperate attempt to discredit me. I am a man of the field. I fought against Hamas as part of intelligence, legitimate intelligence organization, against savage group that were targeting civilians in suicide bombing attacks, waves of suicide bombing attacks that they killed people indiscriminately. So Abi today want me for some reason to apologize for saving human life because my truth challenges her convenient truth. Abi does not have the authority. She's just a self-appointed low-grade journalist. How can you be a journalist and you call this a genocide, ethnic cleansing? And she just keep repeating ethnic cleansing, genocide, colonialism, etc. None of it is real, including Palestine. It's only in your head. None of it is existential. Palestine was never born. How can you free it? It was never there. It's just a colonial entity, and some people choose to make it into a national identity. And this parrot has been just repeating Hamas propaganda. Marwan Barghouti that she's talking about him, she never met him. I knew Marwan before he got to power. He's a criminal. He killed 5 people. He has blood on his hands. He cheated on his wife. He has a secret son that he never revealed it to the public. Of course, I can criticize him, and I can criticize all the criminals that I know personally. She's been there only for a visit, and maybe she had some falafel sandwich, you know, and she really was blown away of the Palestinian experience. There is no such a thing as Palestine. It's about time to retire, find a different job. You're not a journalist. You don't qualify even to be a mother.
Wow. First of all, if you want to take personal aim, I can take you on a rabbit hole that you will never get out of it.
Sure. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I have been patient and respecting you. You know why? Because you're just an arrogant student with no knowledge, with no life experience, advocating on a very dangerous cause, being a useful idiot in the hands of terrorists, creating trouble, putting encampment, breaking the law, advocating on behalf of a terrorist organization designated by the American law as a terrorist organization, makes you a terrorist. So if you want to talk about personal things, you challenge me for doing a legitimate work for a democracy to save human lives, and you want to reduce my effort to say that I got paid 10 years fighting and chasing after terrorists who blow up, killed Americans, Israelis, Arabs, Muslims, all type of people indiscriminately. Do you think you can sit here and judge me? And you don't have the authority to sit there and judge, tell me I took money or I did not take money. This is not your business.
So you can call me TikTok watcher, you can call me Gen Z, you can call me arrogant. What you can't do is respond to the facts.
What facts?
Well, you know,
what facts?
To be fair, we need facts, and that's what I was kind of asking you about. So,
well.
The fact that I was born there and you weren't? The fact that you have a second-hand knowledge?
No, the fact that Israel...
that you think saving human life is treason? You're just taking the side against Israel for killing Gaza children, ignoring the reality that Hamas is using them as civilians, as human shields. And I've been telling you this from day one, that you have been used by Hamas. They want you to cause chaos. They want the global chaos. They want to put pressure on the US government, on the Israeli government, and all other democracies. They want to bring the civilized world to its knees from those ugly images that we see from the war. But Israel did not initiate that war on October 7th. Hamas did. And our problem is not only with Hamas, is with the Palestinian ideology that you just want to gift Hamas and other fanatics a Palestinian state, thinking that this is going to bring a solution. This is going to create a global chaos. These people are not looking for equal opportunity. They don't want to divide the land. If they wanted to divide the land, they would have accepted the partition back in 1948. But instead of declaring their independence, they declared war against the Jewish people. Then they remembered some 40 years later to declare their independence. This is Palestinians, or what so-called Palestinians. They have many, many fundamental problems. They don't have a legitimate leadership. You know, you tell me about the camp, and like you speak on behalf of all the encampment in the United States. You run only a camp here at UCLA. There are other encampments. You are not in charge of them, and they did not even elect you as a leadership. You don't have a moral compass. You don't have an objective out of this thing. You're just going in a revolution for the sake of revolution, intifada, and you don't have a resolution. Where are you getting? What's the next shore? So fundamentally, we have a problem with Palestine. Before we resolve this issue, we need the Palestinians to decide what they want. First of all, what's their constitution? What's their agenda? What's their leadership? And will they drop violence as a method? Will they accept Israel's right to exist? Then after that, we can have a dialogue, and there can be a solution. But as long as they want to annihilate the state of Israel, kill their own children, sacrifice civilians only for your sympathy and the rest of the world's sympathy, then this cycle of violence will never end.
Wow, where do I begin? To analyze the mental state of this self-proclaimed savior of the Gaza children. He really touched my heart. Who authorized you to speak on behalf of the Arab children of Gaza? Who authorized you?
You just did. You
You've
called me
never
a
been
Palestinian.
there. You don't care.
So am I
And
Palestinian or
now
am I
you
not?
think you hold the higher moral ground. You don't.
I do.
You're not the savior. You always need a victim in order to pose as the savior. You're not the savior. First, learn how to control yourself. Learn how to control your tongue buds before you try to control the world. It's a big situation in Gaza. All of us are heartbroken for the death of the children of Gaza. All of us. That includes Israel. Israel considers what's happening in Gaza a tragedy. It's a tragedy made up by the terrorists that you sympathize with, that you want to validate and legitimize. Then we will have to deal with the chaos that you create, your emotional being, going all over the place. Who authorized you to speak on behalf of the Gaza? Nobody did.
You did.
You self-proclaimed, just like Mahmoud Abbas, just like Yasser Arafat, just like all the Palestinians who have been feeding on the pain of the Palestinian children. You are a parasite, a bottom feeder. This is what you are. So before you speak against the prime minister of a democracy and accuse him of being a terrorist, you need to look at yourself in the mirror. You have been supporting Hamas, and it's recorded against you for eternity. So don't play the game now that your fight is for the children in Gaza. This is not your fight. You know who's fighting for the children of Gaza? The IDF. That is killing Hamas. That is uprooting Hamas so the children of Gaza can have their freedom after 36 years of slavery. Those are the ones who qualify to speak on the topic, not you sitting in your comfort. And you want to have an opinion about it.
All right,
this is the problem that we have dealing with scumbags like this.
All right, let me.
In Gaza is not a genocide, it's collateral damage. It's the use of human shields that has been justified by Omar and many advocates on behalf of Palestine who think that the use of human shields and kidnapping people and raping and looting and the calls for annihilating of a human race is a
disgusting
form
accusation.
of resistance.
That's completely baseless. I've never
This is
justified
their,
any of these
you
things.
shut up. You shut up. It's my turn now.
So now,
by all means,
the
unhinged.
thing is,
Go on with your unhinged rambling. Go for
they
it.
invert the narrative. They invert the narrative. Every time they suffer a defeat, they call it a genocide. And we say, no, there is a big difference between defeat and a genocide. You started this war and you killed Jewish people on October 7 by the name of Allah, not by the name of Palestine. Then the entire Muslim world backed Hamas in a global offensive against the Jewish people, a small minority that is resilient to time, with overwhelming evidence in relationship to the land, the only indigenous people to the land who did not oppose allowing the Arabs to stay in the state of Israel. This is why we have 2 million Arabs in Israel. So now, to accuse Israel of ethnic cleansing,
Israel was established
to accuse
by
Israel of genocide,
That's how
while
they
you
became
are
a
the
Jewish state.
perpetrator. You are the perpetrator. Why are you interrupting me? I listened to your false narrative all the way until the end.
No.
So this is the time to sit down and listen.
Carry on.
Sit
No, you're
down
right.
and
Carry
listen.
on.
I do support their right to resist. And if you want the resistance to stop, then as I said at the beginning, I say at the end, justice is always the precondition of peace. And what justice looks like, which is your question. Thank you, my friend. I knew you wanted to know.
Yeah, well, listen, what you call resistance, looting, raping, killing, kidnapping, destroying, suicide bombing, is not an act of resistance. It is barbaric. It is barbaric. You need to call it for what it is.
I had to find a word.
The Nakba, the ethnic cleansing, the genocide, all this type of allegations is the failing attempt of the loser that wants to turn defeat into something else. It's a culture that is based on honor and shame, not right and wrong. It's very shameful, and it has been for the Arab leaderships to just accept defeat. And if you don't accept defeat, you can never know victory, by the way. So they call it a Nakba. It's a disaster. But who's responsible for that disaster? Was it the Arab miscalculation when Israel was extremely outnumbered and they came with this inflated Arabian ego, thinking that they are going to make the Jews into a food of the fish of the sea? They used to say, you know Arabic, تَجَوَّعْ يَا سَمَكَ الْبَحْرِ. This was the slogan, marching towards to annihilate the Jewish people. It was a big shock. My grandmother was asked to evacuate her farm as hundreds of thousands of Arabs left their farms because the Arab armies told them, you must evacuate. After we cleanse the land of the Jews, you can return to your homes. I don't need the United Nations to come educate me about anything because my grandmother is an eyewitness and she gave me her experience. This is what they told her. This is why she left her farm, because she was afraid to get caught up in the war. And the Arabs lost the war, and my grandmother never returned back to her farm. But you know what's amazing? My grandmother started her life again in the village of Bir Zayt near Ramallah and was able to start over and be very successful, sent all her children to get education. And what's remarkable about her? She never spoke anything bad about Israel. She never used the term Nakba. She never used the term occupation or colonialism. For her, it was a loss, and I think deep in her soul, she knew that the Arab armies misguided the entire population, Arab population. They weren't Palestinians at that time. So when we talk about Nakba, catastrophe, whatever they want to name it, it's just a concept. Who's responsible for that, in my opinion? The Arab arrogance.
Now, how many of you sitting here want to teach me a lesson about morality? If you knew about October 7 attacks, any of you, raise your hands. If you had information about Hamas attack on October 7,
Would you report it to the authorities? If you do, raise your hand. Sit down. Less than 5% in this room raised their hands that they would report a massive terrorist attack that targeted civilians indiscriminately. That includes Arabs, Muslims, Jews, Christians, peaceful farming communities on October 7, ethnically cleansing 20 Jewish communities because of their ethnicity and because of their religion. What's happening in Gaza is not the same, because you are the one who's taken the side of terrorists, knowing exactly your role, and you are enjoying it. But at some point, you will have to deal with the consequences, because everything is recorded against you.
Speaking of settlements, or what so-called settlements, those are cities of hundreds of thousands of people. This was the result of the 1967 war, when the Arab countries united wanted to annihilate the state of Israel. Arabs had their opportunity back in 1948 to declare their independence. They had equal opportunity like the Jewish people. The Jewish people fought the British colonialism, and they shed blood, and eventually they earned their independence. But in 1948, instead of the Arabs declaring their independence, they declared war against the Jewish people. There was no such Palestine at that time. They were just Arabs. And in the British era of colonialism, Jews, Arabs, Druze, Christians, everybody in that area was called the Palestinian. The Palestinian is a colonial entity. It was not a country, and it was not a nationality. It was just a 25-year period. So now, when we convinced ourselves that we were Palestinians because of Yasser Arafat wanted us to be Palestinians, the chaos had begun. And now, Palestinian is nothing but the victim narrative, that we don't want to take responsibility for the choices that we have made. 70 years of conflict. And how many opportunities the Palestinians, or what so-called Palestinians, it's not a real thing. There are Arab children, they have the birthright to be there, and Israel has 2 million of those. So the allegation of apartheid doesn't make sense. It's just a broken record by all those who have been trying to delegitimize Israel. It has nothing to do in reality. Then the victim narrative goes on. The 1967 borders, this was area which is the West Bank. It was under the control of Jordan. And the Gaza was under the control of Egypt. They were Egypt and Jordanian territories. It was not a Palestine. Today, Israel has peace with Egypt and with Jordan. So when the Arabs launched a war and they lost the war in 1967, Israel captured some territory. This is the consequences of war. This is and the Arabs don't want to accept the consequences of defeat. Instead of saying we were defeated and Israel won, now they played the victim card. They have been playing the victim card for 70 years. And instead of accepting what is on the table to coexist with Israel, basically Israel was willing to withdraw from the West Bank and Gaza. That offer was on the table in 2000. And Yasser Arafat rejected that because the revolution has no purpose. The revolution is only for the sake of revolution. Bunch of con artists who only want to gain money and power. This is their game. And they have been using Arab children, Arab and Jewish children.
Was assassinated after the Oslo Accords?
Please let me finish. Please don't interrupt me, please. I did not interrupt you. So now the situation got out of control. The false narrative of a victim became global. It's definitely a bestseller narrative, but it's not a true story. The very basis of it, the very foundation of what's so-called Palestine is not real, because in reality there is no such thing. Now, to build all these false accusations of apartheid, of genocide, of ethnic cleansing, only the Jewish people in the Middle East suffered ethnic cleansing and displacement. Only the Jewish people. The Arabs did not suffer the same consequences of the 1967 war, because Israel did not force them to leave the territory after the war, while Egypt, your country, gave the Jewish people a 24-hour notice to depart Egypt. But the Jewish people did not do the same towards the Arabs. And this is how we have 2 million Arabs in Israel. So all the accusations, they're just baseless. And this is how they have been spreading lies to delegitimize Israel without telling us even what Palestine is. What does it stand for? Is it a nation? What do they want to achieve? This revolution and this global chaos, what's their ultimate goal? I would like to know. And most importantly, who is their leadership? Is it the Palestinian Authority? Is it Hamas? Is it the Islamic Jihad? Is it this new generation of pro-Palestine that they are irrelevant to the suffering of the Arab and Jewish children of the region?
So what is your question?
Also stated you were. I honestly forgot the rant put me off. So
okay, well.
Yeah, I mean, he did this ode to children, and I agree. 34 kids were killed on October 7th. That's heartbreaking. 15,000 Palestinian children have been killed.
They killed every child they found on October 7th. If they found 10,000 children, they would have killed 10,000 children.
Okay.
It is not about head count.
Okay, so I'm not excusing a single child that Hamas killed, but it seems like you're saying, 15,000 Palestinian kids. So what? Israel had to do it. We have to eradicate Hamas.
Don't put words in my mouth. Don't put words in my mouth. And don't think that you hold the higher moral ground.
I do.
Those are my children. Those are my brothers and my sisters. And you are not. Don't pose as the one you care more. You don't care more than I do for the Palestinian children or for the Arab children. The reason why are they suffering? This is the most important thing. For those who dare to question Israel without addressing this evil practice of sacrificing children done by Haniya and Sinwar and all the Palestinian ideologists throughout the century, by the way. If they haven't already condemned this culture that targets children and put them in harm's way, then they don't have the authority to question what Israel is doing. If they want to question what Israel is doing, they first must address this evil practice. Otherwise, they are hypocrites and they just pose as they are standing on a high moral ground and they have the authority to question people and label this person this and that person that. This is not how it works. If you want to be truthful, then you have to be truthful all the way.
War crimes, crimes against humanity, ethnic cleansing, and state terror.
Thank you. United Nations Watch.
Shukran, Sayyid Rais. I take the floor on behalf of the UN Watch. My name is Mosab Hassan Yousef. I grew up in Ramallah as a member of Hamas. I address the words to the Palestinian Authority, which claims to be the sole legitimate representative of the Palestinian people. I ask, where does your legitimacy come from?
So you talk about being pulled by the currents of political ideology. I can agree with you. I can agree with you, right, that being pulled by the political ideology of Islamism is completely incorrect and immoral. But it seems as though you haven't really dived too deep below the waters, and it seems that you're being pulled by a different current and a different ideology. And I think the ideology that you're preaching here is in more than one way Islamophobic. And let me explain to you why I believe so. I will equally condemn Hamas right here on the spot so we can all be clear in this room, right? Thank you for that. But what you are saying, right? And you talk about the treatment of blacks, you talk about the treatment of women, right? You talk about the only democracy in the Middle East. You talk about Arab inability to forge nations, to forge countries. You talk about the lack of existence of a Palestinian.
Don't only talk about it. I support it.
I understand. You're making my point for me. Thank you. You talk about the lack of existence of a Palestinian identity, and with all due respect, I know you're Palestinian, or some would say that you are. So you have a right to, disavow yourself of that. But you do not have a right to tell other people that their identity does not exist. I believe that it is incorrect, it is immoral to say what identities do and do not exist, to dictate. That is almost the definition of being a bigot, right? And I'm not trying to name call right now, I'm just trying to call it how I see it, right? And so if we can both agree that we're going to condemn Hamas, but also equally refrain from being Orientalist, refrain from being Islamophobic, then we can have a productive conversation. But I am sorry, sir, your rhetoric is inflammatory. You trade in fear. You trade in fear.
Now you're accusing me. You're accusing me.
Closing point.
It's your point to just accuse me.
Closing point. Okay. I'm calling it how
Right.
I see it, so feel free to retort. But this is my last point. So Samuel Huntington has this idea of the clash of civilizations, right? And I saw you spoke to Sam Harris. Sam Harris subscribes to this idea as well. But you portray this idea of the Islam versus the West. Islam versus the West. And I think this is a very, very dangerous idea. If we're both talking about Islamists, right, we can kind of get on the same page. But you say Islamist, but in your rhetoric you describe the Islamic civilization generally, proper, right? So let's just make sure we're getting clear about that. But I think that is inflammatory. I think that you're trading in fear, and I think that is very, very harmful. And that's just what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Yeah, well, look, you can call somebody who's not familiar with a phenomena that they have a phobia of that. Like someone has phobia of something that is unknown to them. You can say that. You can say this about anybody who did not grow up in that region. But as someone who went to a Sharia school, someone who memorized huge portions of the Quran, someone who speaks the classic Arabic, someone who studied so many Islamic denominations, you cannot accuse them. Are you listening to my answer? You see, you're busy right now, right? Suddenly you're busy.
Listen, I heard exactly what you had to say, and I agree. Islamophobic.
But you want to debate me right now?
Maybe after.
But you want to debate me? Then you need to listen to me until I finish.
Please.
Sit down. Sit down and listen. Okay. So I speak on experience, long experience, much longer experience than your experience combined. Not to reduce you, but have you been to a Sharia school? No, but I lived. You haven't. Have you studied the Sharia? Have you studied the Sharia, the 4 major books of legislation? Have you studied them?
Not fully in depth, but I understand Sharia. I've studied Sharia, yes.
So name the 4 main sources of Islam. Why you cannot do it? You said that you studied it.
When you have Sharia, you're talking about Sharia jurisprudence. You have.
I need the sources. There are 4 main sources of Islam all Muslims agree on. What are the 4 sources?
You have Sunnah, you have Hadith, right? You have Quran, right?
That's not it. That's not it. You forgot Qiyas and Ijma'. So please sit down and listen. Please sit down and listen. I don't have phobia of Islam. I was born in Islam. You cannot tell a cub that they have a phobia of cats. Because this is their environment. You know, you tell somebody who never been to the situation Islamophobic. But I, as a son of the religion, I don't have a phobia. I have the right to rebel. I have the birthright to rebel. I tell you something. I don't mind speaking to him after the event if this is what he wants, okay? And I don't mind actually debating someone. But the thing is, when you accuse someone, you must support. You know, you accuse me of Islamophobia. This is a big accusation. How can be Islamophobic if this is my natural environment? You know, you cannot tell a fish that a fish is afraid of water.
You know,
why don't
this
you have the last
nonsense.
word?
Let me just respond very quickly. I don't believe that Islamophobia is a helpful word, right? I think bigotry towards Muslims may be a better one, right? But I'm just using the word that most people understand. When I say that, people know what I'm talking about, right? That's all I'm saying. But we can have this conversation. I wouldn't dwell over the semantics right now, but we could have this conversation more in depth.
Okay, but also you need to understand.
Thank you. And
know,
I think Mr. Yousef is saying he is not a bigot.
This is,
but
if it was a different function, okay, and I can talk Islam with you all day long, I have no fear, I have no problem of discussing religion, criticizing religion. It's our freedom in this country. You know, people criticize Christianity, criticize Judaism, they make fun of the gods. Why cannot I make the fun of the gods, you know, that I was brought up? But anyway, this is not the right place. Look, I don't want to be offensive. I don't want to be offensive to anybody, but thank you for bringing the topic. We were focusing on Gaza. You tell me that you're from Sudan. You're about like 2,000 miles away. Have you ever been to Palestine or to Israel? You've never been there. So you shake your head when I said the black situation in the territories in denial, but you've never been there. Okay. Look, man, I like to build bridges, but false accusations I don't like. And I don't like hypocrisy. I like free people who don't hide in the crowd.
I'm sorry, we really have to end.